Welcome to Alpha Wolf Trading. Did you know that there's over 12,000 stocks or companies that trade on the OTC? Between the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, you have over 7,000 companies. But us as retail investors, we wouldn't know that unless we were researching. Because why? Wall Street focuses on the elite, the big companies. And where the retail investor has their advantage is in small and micro-cap stocks. Why? Because you have the opportunity to speak directly with leadership. That is what this is all about here at Alpha Wolf Trading. We're trying to find the hidden gems, and we interview the executive teams of companies that we think meet the parameters to be those hidden gems. I also want to make sure you understand that this is not a paid-for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies that I interview have been identified as potential opportunities for me and the members of Alpha Wolf Trading to receive a higher than average return on our investment. These companies I have identified either because of a technical setup on a chart, a fundamental change within the organization, new management team, new products, all kinds of different things that actually lead me here. But what do I think is the most important? Leadership. And that is why I do these interviews. I want to understand what drives the person that is leading the charge. I want to feel their passion. I want to understand their vision and the strategy that they're going to use to achieve success. That is what these interviews are for. I want to understand the share structure and the cap table, the size of the TAM, the total addressable market. This is the opportunity to learn all of those things. So sit back and enjoy. And if you learn anything from today's interview, do us a favor. Subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. I recommend highly that before buying any security, speak to a financial advisor and do your own due diligence. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with another exclusive CEO interview. This is an exciting one and a company I've been familiar with for a very long time. Kopin, and we have the CEO, Michael Murray here. And hey, Michael, thanks for coming in. That's the first thing I want to say to you. I have known the story, the founder, the visionary behind the company, Dr. is it John Fang? Is it Fang? Yeah. Yep. Brilliant man. I mean, absolutely brilliant man. Some of the products and innovations that have come out of that man's mind are literally mind-blowing, right? The problem with Kopin has always been, and this is just my opinion, is that yes, he has an amazing brain. He comes up with incredible products, but he loves to continue coming up with incredible products, and that costs money, and it's never been, you've never been able to get to profitability. Is always been the problem. Now, Michael, you came in a year and a half ago.
Correct. Yep.
And I love turnaround stories. I met you at LD Micro a couple of months ago, and I walked away from our 20-minute conversation very impressed. And that's why we're here today, right? So I think you have almost a perfect storm in a sense, because you've got the markets where the small caps and micro caps have been getting pounded for 30 plus months.
Yes.
Which I think is unsustainable. And many of the companies unfairly punished because they continue to execute. And you just had your 31st celebration of being on the NASDAQ, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Big event, right? And a complete rebranding of Kopin, the company, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna let you
tell the viewers what Kopin does and how you're positioned for what I think is an incredible opportunity.
You bet. No, well, firstly, thanks, Tim. I appreciate your time and the invitation to speak to you and your listeners and viewers. So firstly, yes, Dr. Fan, brilliant. His focus and direction has always been around pushing the technology envelope in AR, VR, and metaverse. And he was very much focused on the metaverse side of things, and still is, by the way, with his company, which is LS Silicon, and they're working with their partners to develop OLED for consumer applications and moving 8-inch wafers to 12-inch wafers, which really enables costs and volumes that you need to run a consumer-grade product. So, we wish him well. We do have an investment in that firm, and they're off and running. So, but for Kopin, after 31 years on the NASDAQ, who are great partners for us, and 40 years in business, we're focused on a little bit different of a strategy. And our strategy is mainly focusing on developing the technology with and for the Department of Defense, number one. Number two, moving that technology into high performance, high ASP type of applications like medical, as an example. We just released our CR3 headset. We build that entire product internally within Kopin. Great margin product for us, high ASP. Don't have to sell a lot of them to make a lot of money, but it's really cool technology, very immersive. We had 2 surgeons at the NASDAQ event telling us how great this product is, because they can still use the product while looking at the patient, as opposed to a monitor while they're trying to do very difficult surgeries. So great efficacy in the marketplace for that technology. And then, of course, we still are a consumer company. I think there's a notion out there that Murray, myself, is not interested in consumer business. That's not the case. But what we're doing is we're taking the DoD market and great business and partnerships that we have, focusing on that, make that profitable, step one. Step two, take that technology and move it into higher ASP markets like medical. That's step two. Step three, partner with larger firms that can help us deliver our IP and technology to the top consumer companies in the world, as opposed to trying to chase after that directly ourselves. That's a model that I learned in my career, multiple different companies. It works. We have a great IP model that we're going to move forward with. We'll look and feel a little bit like an NVIDIA, where we're actually going to be selling software and algorithms, in 2025 and 2026, based around our Neuro Display technology. And the whole ethos of the company has changed. It's all about vision beyond imagination, meaning, hey, we didn't think we could see what we now see because of the technology that Kopin brings. And then secondly, focusing on making sure the technology adapts to the human being, not the human being adapting to the technology. And that's still what's getting AR, VR, metaverse right now, even today with the Apple II Vision Pro release. But I think that's a little bit different. I think they're making their market and their app store and their app marketplace, strengthening that up. I think that's really going to enable this whole market. So very encouraging. I think the time is now for AR, VR, but I think DoD is still going to lead the way.
So, look, you keep everywhere I look, I'm looking at or seeing ads or people talking about the Apple, what is it, the Vision Pro that's coming out, right? I mean, not exactly a cheap unit. I think it's over $3,000, $3,500, right? For me, the metaverse has never been really a thing that I felt we need. I'm all about putting things in 2 categories: the wants and the needs, right? And the metaverse is not something, a place to go to escape the reality and be whoever you want to be. It's just, to me, not a need, right? But with AR and the practical applications that can be applied there, like you just said, surgeries and maintenance and construction. I think there's a lot of practical applications for an AR product, right? And I probably failed. I know I failed to think about Kopin when, as an AR VR play, even though I knew the history, optical and sound, the whisper thing that you guys, I don't know if you still have that or not, but you were doing the F-35 helmets that are the end product for Lockheed Martin, and you still are.
Yeah,
right?
so yeah, exactly right. So we have multiple different programs with Collins Aerospace for the helmet. Our current LCD product goes into that. And I think it's important for listeners and viewers to be aware. We are the only company in the United States, and probably maybe the only company in the world, other than maybe Sony or LG, maybe, that build micro LEDs. That's a really difficult technology that multiple companies have spent billions of dollars on. We're at the forefront of that. That's 1.8 million microcandelas of brightness that will literally rip the retina out of your head. And then secondly, OLED. We have a full OLED suite of micro displays. We also have LCOS, liquid crystal on silicon, and we have our AMLCD technology. So 4 different micro display technologies. There's no other company in the United States that has that, period, full stop. So we can choose the technology, the right display for the application. As an example, our thermal weapon sight product, I'll use AMLCD today. They're going to OLED in the future at some point in time, I believe. But the reason they use LCD is it's very inexpensive. It's very robust for things like weapon chatter and shock. And it's a robust technology that doesn't have things like burn-in issues, which we know OLED physically has. So great technology for thermal weapon sights. We just announced a huge order, 20.5 million for a new thermal weapon sight that's additive to our current backlog. And by the way, we're sitting on 40 million of new orders for 2024. And it's only the 25th of 2024 in January. So very exciting news for us. I'm very proud of the organization, the team for crushing that and working with our great customer on that technology. And then we have, I mentioned LCD. Well, we also have the LCOS displays, which is for a 3D automation, automated line, by the way. And then we also have that technology going into our armored vehicle program because of the refresh rate is so fast on that technology. So that's why we were selected as a sole source vendor for that armored vehicle product. So, and then we also have micro LED, which I think will go into a lot of heads-up displays and helmets in the aircraft end market. So lots of different technologies, all focused in AR, VR, but the right technology for the application. And that's where we came up with this application-specific optical solution. Not only do we build the microdisplay, but we take the optics and the drive electronics and the housings, put it together for an application that's really bespoke. And that's what we're being very successful at right now. And that's been a big shift for the company in 2023. But the ASPs go up, your margins go up, and more importantly, become very sticky. And that's a technical term, Tim, and with your customers moving forward, because you build the whole thing and you put that engineering into the optics. And that's the viewing angle. That's the way that you view the technology with your own eyes. And that's where we take the next step with Neuro Display, which is more pupil tracking, eye tracking, and making sure that you're comfortable using the technology.
So I want to highlight the Neuro Display. So exactly what does that mean? You just had an announcement about the technology. So
yeah, no, we're very proud of it here. I think so. It's newly patented. Essentially, it's really 3 things. It's firstly a software-defined backplane, and what I mean by that is our backplanes moving forward will have a high degree of software flexibility. There's lots of reasons why that actually improves our yields. Number 1. Number 2, it allows us to manipulate the display the way that we want to and give you, the user, kind of knobs to tune the display for you and your application. So that's number 1. Number 2, we've added a small AI generation engine in there. We're not doing chat GPT or anything like that. It's very, very focused around eye tracking and the ability to make sure that when your eye goes into a fight or flight mode, meaning your pupils blow, that we're able to turn down the brightness, turn up the contrast, and manipulate the display for you while you're using it. And that's critically important to folks, flying an aircraft as an example. In a wartime environment, you can't, say timeout, I got to tune down my display and my helmet, right? So you got to do that very, very quickly. And the only way to do that is with, machine learning so that you can actually tune that display very, very quickly and very simply. And then thirdly, it's across all of our technologies, OLED, micro LED, I don't know if we'll do anything in LCD with it, but certainly with LCOS currently. So software-defined, AI-enabled backplanes, and it really doesn't matter the topology that we actually populate on that display, whether it be OLED or micro LED.
So you also have a technology that, and this is kind of an issue that I thought you would have with the AR glasses, for example, in daylight and in dark, right? So you have a solution for that as well.
Exactly right. Actually, we were at the SHOT Show with a company called Wilcox, brilliant company, wonderful company up in New Hampshire. They are the de facto standard in SOCOM helmets. So they build the helmets that you would see on all our special forces, SOCOM, Army. They're just the best at it, in my view, or one of the best in my view. And we partnered with them to do what's called our daytime HUD. So fighting in daytime is always been analog, meaning my eyes and a set of Oakleys, right? And off you go. But in reality, you still want to know where your buddies are. And you also want to know where your not so friendly buddies are. And the ability to do that in daytime is just as important as it is at nighttime. But you have to use ENVG glasses, and you have to bring that with you with batteries and everything else. And you put those on at night, then you throw them away during the day. It doesn't make any sense. So what we invented with our friends is a monocle, and we actually showed this at the SHOT Show, using our technology that's bright enough in daytime to show green on green, even with a green background, you can actually see symbology in that display. And we had a lineup around the corner for people looking at that technology because, again, it works in daytime, it'll work in nighttime.
It's very clear. I mean, at least in the images that I saw, I mean, it's very clear. It's not like it's a kind of a light, you can see it's like a kind of an amazing look.
Absolutely, especially in a monochrome green, which our special forces really enjoy using. We can do multiple colors, but green on green is really tough during the daytime, and we've crushed it. It looks great. We still have more work to do. It's not exactly where we want it yet, but it proves the theory that you can have a daytime solution and a nighttime solution. And that's part of the problem that I see with some of the situational awareness goggles that are out there. You have to change them between night and day. They're very, very heavy. We were at the Association of Night Vision Labs, and the Army is now actually starting to see issues with soldiers' necks because they've got so much weight on their head and on the front of their goggle, where they're actually having neck issues. And we're also seeing it in consumer, by the way, that's too much weight on the front of your head. So that's what also Neuro Display takes care of. We actually eliminate the need for some cameras in those systems, so it make it lighter, cheaper, faster, better, all the great things that you would want to see in a SWaP-C application. So I'm very impressed with our relationship with Wilcox, and they're just fantastic folks to work with.
The other thing I'd like to bring up is LightPath, Sam, and because you said thermal, right?
Yep.
And thermal, I've always had issues with thermal imaging because of the fact that it's usually made with germanium, and China happens to be the largest, well, they control the germanium market for the most part. And LightPath's got that coating BB6, which is made right there in Florida. So, I mean, I love that. I love that story, and I love the fact that you're working with them as well.
Yeah, no, Sam, I have a lot of respect for him and the work that he's doing at LightPath. Both companies, are somewhat of a founder base moving into a different direction, and I think Sam's doing a good job at that. And we're working with him and his team to make sure that we've got a great solution with them, for them, and they're great partners for Kopin. And we wish Sam all the best, and we look forward to working with him in 2024 on some new projects, actually.
Yeah, that's exciting. So listen, you come in a year and a half ago. It's been my experience that it takes about 2 years for a real turnaround, a corporate culture turnaround, right? You're a year and a half in, and I would say you're positioned in what's the TAM, Michael, on your segment of the market?
Yeah, if I look at I'll give you 3 answers to that, if that's okay. I think the TAM, total available market for AR, VR, and defense. This is a little known fact, if you follow the Cheers analogy. The U.S. Department of Defense buys the vast majority of microdisplays, more so than even consumers, still to this day. If you add up all the microdisplays that they buy, so the TAM there, I think it's in the billions. I'd say $2 to $3 billion TAM. If you add IVAS in there, for sure. The medical market, still nascent and emerging. However, I think we've got a great product at the right time, and I think that's going to enable the market. And FDA is very much supportive of our technology because it makes the surgeon focus on the patient while they're performing the surgery, as opposed to moving their head. And then thirdly, and that market, I think it's about $1.6 billion, the last Markets and Markets report that I read. And then from a consumer standpoint, I mean, it's emerging, right? I think Apple has got it almost right with the Apple II Vision Pro. And what I see them doing, in Michael Murray's opinion, is getting the App Store right and getting those apps put in the Apple II Vision Pro. Because if you remember what they did with iTunes, as an example, when the first iPhone came out, it was good. It wasn't as good as a BlackBerry. I was a big BlackBerry guy. But what they built was that ecosystem of software apps and that usability and the need to use it, or the want to use it, right? I see that's what they're doing with this version of Apple II Vision Pro. They're going to get it right. Of course, they're going to get it right. But they're going to get the software environment right first, which they always do better than anybody else, in my view. And then secondly, the hardware is going to come along, and they're actively working on that. So I think those three TAMs for us, if you add them all up, it's 10 billion for us as a TAM. So from a SAM perspective, we're very much focused on thermal weapon sights. We're doing well there with our partners. The avionics side, fast movers, we're working with the best of the best in the industry, and we have multiple generations of displays that are going into helmets for fast movers. We have our AMLCD, OLED, and micro LED all focused in that marketplace, as well as Neuro Display, by the way, focused in that marketplace. We also have the Chinook helicopter and some of the other rotary wing technologies that we partnered on with Elbit. Of course, Elbit's focused on some other things going on in Israel right now. We wish them the best of luck, and hopefully all of our folks there come home safe. And then lastly, the medical market I talked about, and the emerging markets like consumer. I think we've got a great story there moving forward. And then I see you brought up some of the application-specific solutions. The bottom right one is really interesting. That is our armored vehicle program. This is really interesting. This proves the point of where we're going. There are 4 of those weapon sights per vehicle, 3 inside the vehicle and 1 training module. So 4 per vehicle, and we sell them around $13,000 to $15,000 each. That's just going into production this year. We're finishing off the PPAP, which is an automotive quality review, and actually we were at General Dynamics yesterday reviewing that with them, and all things are going well. But that's a $100 million program for Kopin over the next 10 years. That is a big deal for us. And even though the Set 4 upgrade was canceled, doesn't matter. GD is going ahead with our weapon sight because it adds such tremendous value to their AI targeting system, number 1. Number 2, it reduces weight. And number 3, it's very, very accurate. So we're progressing with that program still.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think you're positioned unbelievably well for tremendous growth. And the way I view it is, I don't think optics are going anywhere. I think, if anything, between robotics, drones, I mean, the applications for optics are just growing, right?
Yep.
And I would say that's a sweetheart spot for you to be in.
It is. We invented pancake optics, and it's used globally as the way to do AR, VR glasses. And we have a tremendous wealth of optical engineers here. And it's interesting that when you think about the company, everyone talks about our microdisplay technology and how we package it all up. But what really makes it all work is the optics, just like your glasses or my glasses. Without the right optic and prescription, it doesn't matter. You're not going to use them, right? So that's where that piece of things that I had the aha moment of, wait a second, if we can't make the technology adapt to the user, and the user has to adapt to the technology, it's not going to work. Dr. Fan was right about that. We're just taking it to the next level through software and AI to make sure that you, the user, have those knobs to tune the technology for you. Because I'll tell you, with 1 million active soldiers, how many of those do you think have the exact same eyesight? The answer is very little. So how the hell are you going to give them the same glasses to wear? Doesn't make any sense. It just makes no sense. So that's where we're focused.
No, I love it, Mike. I love the energy that you have. I love the fact you have a very clear vision. No pun intended. But you've got some massive market opportunities. Let's shift the focus for a moment to how are you from a balance sheet standpoint and getting to profitability?
Yeah, great question. So if we talk about the fundamentals, I think the company has moved a long way. We reduced OpEx by 36% last year. Big numbers. We had 2 reductions in force to bring down our overall staffing levels. We've improved quality by 10 to 12% per program, which just drops to the bottom line. We have had very hard discussions with some of our customers to raise prices. Those raised prices actually hit this year. They weren't in last year because our old POs were still cycling through, Tim. So the new purchase orders, like the ones we just received, come in at a higher resale than what we had last year. So higher resales, better quality, lower cost, generally speaking, from a materials management perspective. We'll see our gross margins start to grow over the course of the next few quarters, and the absorption rate of the overall factory, because we'll be building 3 or 4 times more equipment through the fab here, and that absorption rate becomes much more important moving forward. So all those things are going well. We're sitting on, I think, enough cash currently. We are going to be a little bit thin by the end of the year because we have to go buy about 9 to 15 million worth of working capital for these orders that we're sitting on currently. But in terms of profitability, that's the focus for this year. 2023 was all about me trying to figure out, where the bathroom is and trying to understand, where the issues were and plug those holes. And we had 3 real issues within the company. One, we were spending too much in R&D. So my ethos right now and focus is around 7 to 9% revenue we'll spend in research and development. And yet we're still very much innovative with 6 patents now in AI that we've just put out. Secondly, one of our largest programs was not profitable. And it wasn't profitable because we weren't doing the right things on the quality side. Okay, we went and fixed that. We're still fixing it because it's a legacy design and we're kind of limping along with it, but it's getting much better. And the customer's been wonderful in working with us to make sure that we can produce it at a profitable rate. So that's ongoing, but we're doing much better there. Then thirdly, just taking a look at how we spend our cash. And we've been very, very stringent on cash flow. We have had our SG&A pop up because of an old lawsuit that we're currently in mediation trying to get rid of and move on from. But that's why we had an SG&A bump in Q3 and Q2. Otherwise, we would have actually been profitable in Q2, believe it or not. If you take out the litigation expense and a mark-to-market write-down of a non-cash asset, you take those 2 things out and we would have been break even. So we can get there. And I think this is the year we're going to do it.
So let's talk about debt. How much debt do you have?
Zero debt, no warrants, clean balance sheet. And we've been working really hard with our investor community to make sure that it stays that way. We have tremendous investors, long-term holders, the best of the best. I've been very active in New York and San Francisco, working with new investors. That's how I met you, and bringing in some very long-term, high-class, high-caliber, and pedigree investors that will hold the stock and work with us moving forward. Because we have tremendous order book right now. I mean, a record order book for the company. We've worked so hard to get to that point. And by the way, it's only the 25th.
You're 25 days into the year.
Yeah, we're 25 days into the year and we're sitting on a $40 million order book for this year. So tremendous order book cover. But we still have more work to do. We've got some new customer announcements that are coming out. We know that we've won a couple of new programs. We're just tightening up the T's and C's on those, which is really cool. But I think fundamentally, when you look at the fundamentals of the company, every quarter we've improved. Every quarter we've improved. And that's what's critically important. Not every quarter is going to go perfectly. You know, Q4, I made sure that people were aware that, you know, we knew that this new order was coming. So we had to take some steps here in the fab to make sure that we were able to support it. We did that just over the Christmas break and holiday. So we're ready to go to deliver this revenue.
All right. So, you know, I think it's important, like I said, a lot of times to change the culture and the real buy-in, you bringing in, you know, your team and building the team around you, that takes on average about 2 years, or you're a year and a half in, right? So, and I think you've done an amazing job, right? I think you're clearly on the right path, and you're in I don't even think you can really determine the size of the TAM, because I don't think all the applications of what is going to be needed is fully understood yet, right? Right. I think it's big, much bigger than we anticipate. It's just on your background, Michael. I mean, before you came to Kopin, what's your background?
Sure. So I actually was a serial entrepreneur right out of school, very early in my career. Started a company in Canada, became very successful, made an exit out of that. My next startup was a horrific disaster. So I ended up having to get a real job, and yeah, you know, they're not all gold. But
no, you know what? I love that you just said that, because listen, not everything is always peaches and cream, and you know, I think in life, and I think it's kind of an issue in society today. We like to fixate and focus upon people's mistakes, and like get labeled them for the rest of their entire lives for a mistake that they made many years ago. And I don't know about you, but in life, the mistakes are the best lessons I've ever had, right? And if we continue to persecute people for mistakes that they make in their past, I think we're doing a real disservice. I think we're definitely sending the kids the wrong message that, you know, geez, if you fail or you make a dumb move or you make a mistake, that's how you're going to be defined for the rest of your life. No, that isn't. We should be saying, hey, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them and don't ever repeat them, right?
No, exactly. And I've, you know, I should use a better word than failed. I've learned a lot in my career over the last 25 years in this business. But I've had great mentors and coaches. You know, I'll use Ray Stata as a great example. He was the reason why I joined Analog Devices after my startup. That man, he could walk into any room, have a conversation with anybody, and you wouldn't know he's a multi-billionaire and one of the smartest people I've ever met. And he started Analog Devices. I worked there for over a decade, listened and learned from the leadership there and how to build semiconductors and make a great profit at it. Be authentic, be unafraid to fail, quite frankly. Try different things, be inventive, be inquisitive, innovate. Part of innovation is, quite frankly, accepting failure. Some of this stuff just doesn't work. I mean, part of what we see in our history here at Kopin is we've tried many things that just didn't work. And that's okay, but you learn something that did, right? I use the Neuro Display as an example. We've been doing software-defined backplanes for a long time. We've been the only ones doing it. But it was actually by accident that I was in Dalgety Bay, Scotland, and one of the engineers said, well, we're able to actually look at some of the pixels in our micro LED, and the one that doesn't work, we just turn it off using the software backplane. I was like, you can do that? I said, yeah, well, I can do all sorts of things with this thing. Watch this. And I thought, oh my God, that's the answer right there. You know, so it was through kind of experimentation and innovation that these new things come out. And when I learned that from Analog to really try new things, try to make things better, but really understand what your customer's customer is experiencing. I think that's what they taught me. And then moving on from there, I went into some DoD work, building cryptography, and we had a great business. Unfortunately, that got swept. Our money got swept, so that company unfortunately had to fail. But I learned a lot through that, and then joined a UK-based defense company and worked really hard to build a new business out of 3 smaller divisions. And that company ultimately was sold to a company called Advent out of Boston here. It's a PE firm. So I've used somewhat of the same playbook all along. And I've learned that from analog. I learned it from my own businesses and trial and success and failures. And I think what's different here is our ability and the deep technical roots that we have, number one. And number two, the team. I mean, the team here just wants to be successful. They want leadership and they want focus. And essentially, when you've got the strategic initiatives up there right there, I'm very focused. Those 5 things are on my whiteboard every day when I walk in. I look at the toughest one that I have to do. That's the first thing I do when I sit down. So I look at the toughest one and I say, okay, how can I make that work today? And how can we focus on that today? And that's just the way I'm wired, like it or not.
No, you know what? That's what you just said. And that's an excellent attribute of leadership. Is look, if you focus on, I mean, there's those things in your life that the big things that you don't really want to do, but they're important to do. They're probably the most important thing to do. And it's challenging, and it's like what you don't want to tackle. But if you tackle that big thing first, all these other things that are below it actually, seem a lot simpler, right? So it's tough to get people to want to tackle like big change or big things, but those are actually the things that if you tackle those first, it's going to make all of the other things easier.
No, you're exactly right. And one of the things that we've done as of today, at the NASDAQ bell ringing, that was just a tremendous morale boost for the entire company. And it was important for one very major reason, going back to profitability. We had 3 divisions, right? We had Kopin Targeting, we had Fourth Dimension, and we had Envis down in Western Virginia. Each of those businesses had their own leadership, their own engineering, their own purchasing, their own billing and receiving, et cetera, et cetera. But they were only $3 to $4 million of revenue each, so Reston and Fourth Dimension. So what we've done now is we've collapsed those businesses and put them under one Kopin, meaning we have one direction for quality, we have one direction for purchasing, one direction for marketing materials, et cetera, one website. So that efficiency is important for a company our size. We can't be paying 3 people to do one job, right? It doesn't make any sense. So we've done that. We've repositioned people into other positions if we could, or, throughout the year, we did have 2 reductions in force, and that was very much targeted at where we ended this year with one Kopin. So those reductions in force was that parenting advantage in mind. So I've been building up to that over the course of 2023. Now we've got one Kopin, one brand, one logo, one website, one quality organization, one purchasing organization, yada, yada, yada. And that's really important for our profitability and efficiencies moving forward. But that's really tough to do, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely. I mean, look,
yeah, it's a cultural thing.
Nobody likes to go through the downsizing, but look, the reality is you have to right size the company for what you are, right? And it's unfortunate and sucks, but it's realigning a company and changing the corporate culture is a tough thing to do, man. I mean, that's why they have turnaround specialists, right? Because you have to identify the problem first, then you have to go out and fix all the problems, and then get everybody on the same page and get through all those challenges. And then once you start to see that that cohesive unit that all is on the same page and all has the same desire, right? And all motivated by the same thing, that's when magic starts to happen, right?
Exactly right. No, you're exactly right. And I call it, it's the formation of a team. And, one of the things that we did during the bell ring is we brought in three key leaders from Western Virginia. We brought in three key leaders and folks from Dalgety Bay, Scotland, and people that have worked in our company for over 20 years, and we put them on stage to ring that bell. The morale that created and the unity of the team that created that day, still, I mean, people are walking around here beaming. And just that shock to not see Fourth Dimension logo on your door when you walk in, or Envis on your door as you walk in, and you now see Kopin in the new logo. That shock that you get isn't as much. And secondly, you're more supportive of it because you're part of it. And that's been the big change in 2023. And I talk to a lot of investors, and they're just looking for balance sheet this and balance sheet that and the technicals. I get that. We're absolutely focused on that, but it takes people to get there. Right? If all the people leave and all the talent leaves and we can't attract new talent, and this is huge for us. If we can't attract new talent, especially in software and algorithms, the balance sheet's never going to be right anyway, right? So now, and I'll use this data point, we had some open roles on our website for really key hires before the NASDAQ and before the new website and the new brand and the new social media platforms, et cetera. We were getting 1 to 2 applicants per week, maybe per month. Now we've got 60 per week for each role. So we're kind of like, oh, wait a second, how do we manage all of this? So, but it's important when we think about talent and where we are in Boston and Virginia and Dalgety Bay, we're competing against the Googles, the Metas, the Apples of the world, and we're winning. We brought in a great quality management organization and team, mostly from Raytheon and a few other folks and companies. Our program management team is brand new, very focused. Folks from, again, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Lockheed, very talented folks. And then our engineering organization has been growing as well with new types of engineers on the software side and product side. But small tweaks here and there. We've been controlling our costs. We've been controlling what we can control.
How many shares do you have fully diluted outstanding?
Sorry, say again?
How many shares do you have fully diluted outstanding?
I think it's 111 million.
So in my view, that is not a bloated share count. That is actually for this particular industry, defense. I actually think that's a small share count.
Yeah, I think obviously everyone wants it to be lower, as do I as a shareholder. But I do think making our working capital work for us better is critical. We did do a raise with our friends over at Stifel in 2023, which I think was very successful. And for being either bright or lucky, I'm not sure which one, we did it before the money got very expensive. We were probably the last good deal in 2023, as good deals go anyway. But that was very important for our future because right now, the best news out of all of this is we have a tremendous order book. Demand is super high. It's the 25th of January, and we're still crushing it on orders. And we will continue to with new customers and new orders. They might be small, but in reality, the overall business itself will grow because of those smaller little orders that we're getting now. They do grow over time, as you can imagine. So as we do that, I think our capital will come into question, but I don't see that happening, in the next little while. But we do have to.
That is the biggest concern, right? That is the biggest concern with everybody when it comes to small caps, and that's part of the reason why the entire sector is just getting hammered and it's been a continual. It's like 33 months, 34 months now of pain, right, for small and micro cap companies. Myself, I happen to think that is unsustainable. There are a lot of good companies in the small and micro cap space that have not destroyed their balance sheet, that haven't blown up their cap table, that have grown their businesses, have become more efficient. Look, we went through COVID, a pandemic, which I'm pretty sure never has happened before. We went through supply chain issues that were historic in nature. We have gone through the fastest interest rate hike cycle in history. And these businesses have managed to not only survive, but grow. And in my head, I would say that is a pretty challenging business environment to grow through. Yes?
It is. No, I mean, it's unbelievable to me. I'll tell you a quick story. We announced a $12.8 million order, and you can look this up. It was in Q3 or Q4, I can't remember. And the stock tanked. And I got a bunch of phone calls from investors, and they said, "What happened? What did you do?" I said, "I didn't do anything." But the Fed came out and said, "We're going to hike again." And every time we had a piece of good news in 2023, the Fed came back the next week and said, "We're hiking." So for small cap, there's certain things that we can't control. And I've been talking with Sam about this, and how quants work, and how algorithms work, and it's a new day of trades, right? And I really respect the folks that manage money, and folks like yourself that look at the fundamentals, look at the technicals, understand them, really what it means, to break certain trend lines and what have you. And I think it's important to know that microcap and small cap, that is the future of this country, right? I mean, it really is. We're hiring as other companies are laying off, and we're hiring because we have great demand, great technology. We're trying to grow. I think we've got some good things in the budget, the DoD budget. Once we get a working government back and the Senate can actually vote some of these packages through, I was expecting to have a big announcement, a bigger announcement than the 20 million. But I'm waiting for the government to get back to work so they can, give us our contracts. So all that being said, when you look at small cap, it's about the fundamentals. And I talked about this. We share the same agreement. You have to look at the technicals. You have to look at the fundamentals. It all ain't going to be pretty all the time. But what's the trend, right? I look at the trends, and I look at our progression quarter over quarter.
Well, we're going to go. You're jumping ahead of me here, Michael.
Hey, no.
But we're going to hit that in about 2 seconds.
Okay, fair enough.
What I think is extremely important to recognize, and this is my view. I believe the Fed is done with this rate hike cycle. And why do I say that? Well, because first of all, the ramifications of the interest rate hikes that he's already done have not even worked their way through the system yet.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, right. It's still coming.
It takes months.
And he having the fastest interest rate hike cycle in history, I think there are going to be some backpedaling. I think the next interest rate hike or interest rate move will be a cut. And also we're entering a presidential election year. So nobody's going to be raising rates during the presidential election year. That's just my belief, right?
Believe you. Yep, I agree with you.
Everybody is waiting for the recession to come. I would suggest we've already been in a recession for quite a while. Actually,
and I think they were looking at the wrong data.
Exactly. They're using data that is not, in this particular instance, the data that they should be looking at, because unemployment, it's not rising. Well, no, it's not, because we aren't back to employment levels from pre-COVID in a lot of industries, right? So it may not be your career of choice, but if you want to work, there's a job for you to have, right? So there are a lot of indicators that they use to identify a recession that I don't think are applicable in this point in time, right?
Yeah, especially a post-COVID market where you've got a lot of millennial baby boomers that are just choosing not to go back to work.
Exactly.
We also have a war in Ukraine that is consuming tremendous amounts of energy and oil that is a perturbation to the market. And then on top of that, you've just got a population that has chosen a different path for themselves, whether to go back to work from home, only work part-time, work for themselves. So I think
or don't work at all.
Or don't work at all. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. There's lots of people opting out. So
right.
I think the metrics, and I agree with you, Tim, I think we were and probably are still in somewhat of a recession in certain pockets. But if the Fed keeps hiking at this point, I think they're going to lose control. And I hope they haven't. And I don't know what kind of landing we're in for. But to your point, I think you're exactly right. It's going to take months to really see the affect of what they've done.
Yeah.
And I'm getting concerned that in the markets where there is weakness, not in defense, but in other markets, it's going to hit them pretty hard.
Well, I think it's really important to identify the fact that the markets are hitting, showing strength, but really it's 7 stocks that are holding up the entire market, right? And if you think putting your money in Apple, and I'm not trying to pick on Apple, at a $3 trillion valuation where they could buy 17 countries because they have more than their GDP. You look at that and say, is that sustainable? Is Apple going to go to 6 trillion? Is that going to be a double? I think you're at these levels, your risk to reward is much higher in the high flyers because I think they're overvalued. And where I see tremendous value, and if I'm right about the fact that the Fed is done with their raises, and they actually, even if they just stand pat, let's just say they stand pat, forget the cut. That is, at least for the markets, we know that, okay, they're done raising, right? Mm-hmm. So we can adjust and we can normalize to what we have. And I think that is in itself cause for celebration for the markets and specifically for the small and micro cap companies, right? Right now, you mentioned the financing, 200% warrant coverage. I mean, these are horrendous deals. And if you take that deal, you seal the fate of your company. I understand you need cash, but if you take, a deal, you're never coming out of it. You're never coming out of it, right? So it's unfortunate. I think Wall Street's broken in a lot of ways. It's ironic that when small companies really need the money, the banks aren't giving them the money, or they're giving them these horrible deals. And when times are good and nobody needs money, that's when they're throwing money at the big guys, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Yeah, we like I said, for either being intelligent or lucky, I think we were the last quote unquote good deal that, in 2023, we didn't have any warrants. We came out with a clean balance sheet, no debt. And I think that's really important. And, there's a lot of bad money out there. And fortunately, we're not taking it. But other companies have to. And, I hope we never get into that place because it to your point, it becomes a cancer that you just can't get rid of. So, that's an important piece of things. As if the Fed is done.
What I want to make sure is you are not in immediate need of having to do a capital raise, right? And that's the biggest concern.
Yeah, of course. It's always a concern. I think if we did, it's because we have orders. And that's the thing is if we.
And that's a very different component. When you have, just so everybody understands, you're not looking for capital to survive. You're looking for capital to, fulfill an order, an obligation that you already have, right? Yep. So that's a very different dynamic. And typically you're going to get a much better terms on your capital.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. No, we don't need capital to keep the lights on, right? And I think that's a big difference between Kopin and a lot of other companies. We have a great order book. We've got cash on the balance sheet, no debt, no warrants. So we've got a clean balance sheet. But we do have growth expectations. And, some of the orders that we're working on right now, they are significant. We just announced the 20.5. I've got a lineup of other orders and deals that we're trying to put through this year that are in the same magnitude. We also have the Abrams order that we're going to start fulfilling in Q4, which is pretty significant in terms of working capital that we're going to be requiring. But the good news is the revenue growth associated with these new orders and the profitability of these new orders based on our new contract structure and our new focus on costs and what have you, those are all things that are going to propel us from a revenue perspective to be a double-digit grower this year in a pretty significant way throughout 25, 26, and 27. my goal is to be $100 million, or plus business in 3 years. That's my goal. I took this job to reach that goal and do better, actually. So there might be some M&A that we need to do to move forward with that. We've got some technology tuck-ins that we're looking at investing in over the course of the next couple of years to help us do that. But organically, we're getting the orders to get there. And that's the real cool part. So I think that's what makes Kopin different than a lot of small microcap guys in the industry today.
Yeah, Michael, I love your story. This is the last thing I'm gonna touch on. I'm gonna touch on the technicals. We just talked about them, and it's pretty simple. Anybody that is looking at that chart right there from 2021 till now, the stock price has been in a clear downward trend. Where what's exciting about what is happening right now is you have that dominant trend has been broken to the upside, and it hasn't broken. It's a pretty recent break, right? So if you look at this, you've actually got a cup with handles formation. The cup is this right here, right? And then you got the handle right here. You're sitting right on top of $2. That's a cycle lot. Round numbers are always interesting. Can you break below $2? Sure, absolutely. I mean, in this market, anything's possible, right? I would say with the fact that you have catalysts on the horizon, you have a story that I think people are starting to resonate with, right? And you're getting your story out there. You have an industry that is prime for your products, and you got good leadership. That's always the biggest thing for me, right? You can have a great product, great service. If you don't have great leadership, I think the odds are stacked against you. And I think the right leadership is at Kopin today, right? At least you're executing, right?
Yep.
And I think you plan to continue to execute, and I think the entire team plans to continue to execute, right? So the way I view it, and I'm not telling anybody to buy the stock, that's not what I do. I'm not a financial advisor. All I'm doing is bringing the story, which I think is extremely compelling, and saying, what is your risk reward here? And if you're not following Kopin, then I would suggest that you go to their IR page and you sign up for their email alerts. You go to IR Investors Resources and you sign up for their email alerts and just follow the story. Every time they put out a press release, you get it sent to you directly to your email, and just follow what's going on. Maybe you don't want to go in today. I personally think that this would be a great place to just dip your toe, right? If it goes lower and there's some really good support right around 175 or so, 190, I personally would buy more. That's where I would double or triple up, right? I don't think the story is going away. I don't think the industry is going away. I think they've got new innovation that's happening that is cutting edge. And, with the Apple Vision Pro, there's a lot of action in this area, in the realm, right? So exciting opportunity. This is what I'd like to do, Michael. When do you report earnings next?
March 15th or 14th.
Okay. What do you say we circle back after you report earnings after the 14th or whatever?
You bet. No, I'd love that. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners and viewers. I think we've got a great plan. Not everything goes to plan, as you know, but if you leave with anything today, we've got orders. That's number one. Number two, we have the best customers in the world, whether it be Collins Aerospace, DRS Leonardo, General Dynamics, Lockheed. We're working with some of the best surgeons on the planet right now on the medical side, and we've got a consumer strategy too that I think is very robust and focused. So I think we're moving in the right direction. 2023 was all about pivoting, making sure that this year we come out clean and Q2, Q3, Q4, we're just going to see a great ramp in revenue. So I'm pleased with where we are. I think we can do more. I think we can do better. But I think it's resonating with the customer base. We're getting the orders, we're getting the recognition, and now it's about executing. And that's what we're here to do.
Perfect. I love it. Ticker symbol is KOPN, traded on the NASDAQ. Like I said, go to the website, sign up for email alerts, follow this story, because I think this is one where the risk reward here is favorable. That's just my opinion. And we're going to be keeping an eye on you, making sure that you are executing, Michael. And I have no doubt that you're going to do it. So I look forward to our next meeting. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate it.
All right, hold on one second. I'm going to turn this. Thank you for tuning in to another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Trading. Today we had Michael Murray from Kopin Corperation, ticker symbol KOPN. If you enjoyed today's interview, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? And make sure you smash that subscribe button. All of those things are extremely important to us here at Alpha Wolf Trading, and they incentivize me to want to continue providing this content. Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.